The human research station floated at the edge of neutral space, far from Earth, and even farther from anything familiar. It was a place where mistakes could become history, and words could change the future of two species. Evan Cole knew this very well. He stood inside the main diplomatic chamber, hands clasped behind his back, trying very hard not to look nervous. He was not a soldier. He was not a hero. He was a linguistics officer, someone trained to listen, observe, and translate. His job was simple on paper: help humans communicate with the Kylar, a powerful alien species newly arrived in the galactic community. The Kylar were taller than humans, broader, and built like they had been shaped by evolution for survival, not comfort.
Their skin carried a smooth metallic sheen, shifting slightly with the light.
Their eyes were forward-facing, sharp, and unblinking. To many humans, they looked intimidating. To Evan, they were fascinating. Across the chamber stood Commander Threxia Valcor. She was the Kylar representative sent to evaluate humanity. Evan tried not to stare. He truly did. But his eyes kept returning to her form, not in a crude way, but with the strange curiosity that came when someone saw a body built for strength. Her posture was perfectly balanced. Her movements were controlled and heavy with power. Everything about her presence suggested confidence. The translation implant behind Evan's ear hummed softly. It was new technology, still under testing. It allowed near-instant understanding between species by converting intent, thought patterns, and speech into usable language. At least, that was the idea. The meeting began formally. Human officials spoke. Kylar observers listened. Words moved carefully, like pieces on a game board. Evan stood slightly behind the main table, monitoring translation accuracy on his wrist display. Everything looked stable. Green indicators blinked calmly. Commander Threxia stepped forward. When she spoke, her voice was deep and smooth, resonating in a way that made the chamber feel smaller. "We seek to understand humans," she said. "Your species advances quickly. That speed creates interest and concern." The translator rendered her words perfectly. Evan nodded to himself. No issues so far. Then Threxia's gaze shifted slightly. For just a moment, her eyes passed over Evan. Something about that glance made his thoughts wander. He noticed the way her armor curved, the way her center of gravity sat low and powerful. His mind, unfiltered and private, made an idle, stupid observation. One he would never say aloud. "That's impressive. Built like she could break a wall just by backing into it." The thought barely finished forming when Evan felt a sharp pulse behind his ear. Before he could react, his own voice echoed through the chamber. "That's impressive. Built like she could break a wall just by backing into it." Silence fell instantly. Every human head snapped toward him. Evan's blood turned to ice. He hadn't spoken. He was sure of it. His lips hadn't moved, had they? His heart began to pound as realization hit him like a physical blow. The implant. Oh, no. The room felt suddenly too bright, too open. Evan's face burned. His mind raced with images of disciplinary hearings, career destruction, maybe even imprisonment. He had just made a personal comment about an alien commander's body during a first contact diplomatic session. Commander Threxia did not react right away. She turned slowly, fully, to face Evan. Her expression was unreadable. Kylar facial cues were subtle, and Evan had not yet learned them well. One of the human officials cleared his throat. Another quietly whispered Evan's name in panic. Evan stepped forward, without thinking. "Commander, She raised one large, clawed hand. "Explain," Threxia said. The translator picked up her words, sharp and direct. "Explain," Evan swallowed. His legs felt weak, but he forced himself to stand straight. It was not meant as an insult," he said carefully. "It was a private thought, a malfunction." The Kylar observers shifted slightly. They murmured among themselves, low and clicking. Threxia tilted her head. "Private thought," she repeated. "You observe my physical structure and associate it with destructive capability." Evan nodded slowly. There was no escaping now. "Yes? Why?" The question was not angry. It was curious. That surprised him. Evan took a breath. Humans notice form and movement instinctively. Strength. Balance. Wearied. Danger and ability. Very quickly. It's part of how we survived. The chamber remained silent. Threxia stepped closer. Each step made a soft, heavy sound against the floor. She stopped only a few feet away from Evan. Up close, she was even more imposing, taller than him by nearly a head. "And this observation," she said, "was it intended to diminish me?" "No," Evan said immediately. It was respect. Unfiltered. Unprofessional, yes, but honest. That word seemed to matter. Honest. Threxia studied him for a long moment. Her eyes moved slightly, scanning his posture, his breathing, his face. "Your kind allows such thoughts to exist freely?" she asked. Evan hesitated. "We try to control what we say, not always what we think." The commander straightened. She turned back toward the table. "This malfunction," she said to the room, "has provided data." The tension shifted. Human officials exchanged confused looks. Rexia continued, her voice calm. "Humans perceive strength through physical cues. They connect form with function without formal analysis."
She looked at Evan again. "That instinct allowed your species to survive without advanced technology for a long time." Evan blinked.
He had expected anger. Punishment, not this.
"I did not take offense,"
Threxia said.
"Among my people, noticing strength is acknowledgement, not shame."
A quiet ripple moved through the chamber. Evan felt his lungs finally release the breath he had been holding. The meeting continued, but everything felt different now. The atmosphere had shifted. The Kylar asked more questions about human instincts, reactions, and emotional thinking. Evan answered carefully, still shaken but focused. As the session ended, the officials began to file out. Evan stayed behind, waiting for instructions or consequences. Commander Threxia approached him once more. "Human Evan Cole," she said, "your malfunction revealed something valuable." "Yes, Commander?" he said. "You see more than words," she said. "That can be dangerous. Or useful." She paused. "Ensure your implant is repaired," she added. "Next time, I would prefer your thoughts remain inside your mind." There was no anger in her tone, only something like amusement. As she left the chamber, Evan stood frozen, heart still racing. He had not been punished. He had been noticed. And somewhere deep inside, Evan realized that one accidental thought might have just changed how an entire species saw humanity. The mistake was over. The consequences were only beginning.
The corridor outside the diplomatic chamber felt colder than before.
Evan Cole walked slowly, his mind still replaying every second of what had happened. Each step echoed too loudly in his ears. He could feel eyes on him, human officers, technicians, even security personnel who had already heard what he had accidentally said. He kept his gaze forward. For the first time since joining the interspecies program, Evan understood how fragile everything was. One sentence, one unfiltered thought, had almost shattered years of careful preparation. And yet, somehow, the galaxy had not ended. Instead, something had shifted. Inside the observation wing, Commander Threxia Valcor stood alone, looking through a wide, transparent panel into open space. Stars drifted slowly past the station, distant and calm. To her people, silence was a place to think. Her thoughts were focused on the human. Evan Cole had not behaved like other diplomats she had encountered. Most species hid their reactions behind training and protocol. Humans did too, but not perfectly. And when the humans' restraint failed, what emerged was not insult or mockery. It was instinct. Among the Keelar, instinct was respected, was the foundation of survival. A warrior who ignored instinct did not live long. Threxia found herself curious. Later that cycle, a formal request arrived. Commander Threxia requested a private cultural clarification session with Human Linguistics Officer Evan Cole. When Evan received the message, he stared at it in disbelief. Private. With her. His first reaction was panic. His second was confusion. His third was a deep, quiet sense of responsibility. Whatever this was, it mattered. He reported to the designated meeting room exactly on time. The room was smaller than the diplomatic chamber. No long tables. No audience. Just 2 chairs, a low table, and neutral lighting. The atmosphere felt controlled. Commander Threxia entered without ceremony. She did not wear her full armor this time. Instead, she wore lighter ceremonial plating that allowed more freedom of movement. The change was subtle, but Evan noticed immediately. She sat across from him. "You may relax," she said. "This is not a trial." Evan nodded. "Thank you, Commander. Explain your species' reaction patterns," Threxia said. "Specifically, attraction, embarrassment, and honesty."
Evan blinked.
That was not what he expected. He thought carefully before answering. Humans are emotional beings. We evolved in close social groups. Attraction helps bonding. Embarrassment helps us follow group rules. Honesty. Well, honesty is complicated. Your thoughts escaped without permission, Threxia said. Yet you did not attempt to deny them. I couldn't, Evan said. And even if I could, lying would have made it worse. Why? Because humans can sense when something is false. Evan replied. We don't always explain it well, but we feel it. Threxia leaned back slightly. You believe truth has value, even when it creates discomfort.
Yes, Evan said.
Especially then. The commander was silent for a long moment. Among the Kylar, she said, we do not separate thought and action so strictly. A thought that is not acted upon is considered incomplete. That sounds intense, Evan said carefully. It is efficient, Threxia replied. But your kind is different. You restrain action, not thought. She studied him again. Your reaction to my physical form, was it common among humans?
Evan hesitated, then nodded. Some would notice.
Some would not. Humans are diverse, but many of us associate strength with safety, power with reliability. Interesting, Threxia said. Other species fear power. We learn to work with it, Evan said. Or we didn't survive. The session continued for hours. They spoke about body language, tone shifts, micro-expressions. Evan explained how humans read movement without realizing it, how soldiers could sense danger before sensors picked it up, how leaders inspired trust through posture alone. Threxia listened closely.
You are an instinct-driven species hiding behind rules, she said at one point.
Evan smiled faintly. That's not wrong. When the meeting ended, Threxia stood.
You have been honest, she said.
That is rare. Thank you for listening, Evan replied. As he left the room, he felt lighter, but also uneasy. This was no longer just about translation. Something deeper was forming. Across the station, whispers spread. The human who spoke his thoughts had not been removed. Instead, he was being consulted. Other alien delegates began requesting human behavioral assessments. They wanted to know how humans reacted under stress, how they noticed patterns, how they survived impossible situations. Evan found himself working non-stop, and watching him from a distance, Commander Threxia began to test something. A simulated crisis was arranged. An emergency alert rang through the station. Systems flickered. Lights dimmed. A false hull breach warning appeared on multiple displays. Most species froze. Evan did not. Before alarms finished sounding, he was already moving, guiding humans and aliens alike towards stable zones. He noticed a vibration pattern others ignored. He pointed out a structural weakness that sensors had not flagged yet. "Seal that section," he said. "Now." Engineers hesitated. Threxia watched closely. Moments later, the simulated breach activated exactly where Evan had predicted. The room fell silent. Data poured in. Man instincts had outpaced technology. The exercise ended. Later, in a private report, Threxia summarized her findings in simple terms. Humans perceive reality differently. Their instincts operate faster than analysis. They notice truth before proof. That cycle, she met Evan again.
"You acted without hesitation," she said. "I didn't think," Evan admitted.
"I just knew." "That knowledge saved time," Threxia said. "In war, time is life." Evan frowned. "War?" The commander did not answer immediately. "There are forces in this galaxy," she said slowly, "that will not negotiate.
When they come, understanding humans may determine survival."
And it began with a thought you did not mean to share. Evan felt a chill. The embarrassment was long gone now. In its place was something heavier. Purpose. As he returned to his quarters, Evan understood one thing clearly. The galaxy was watching humanity. And for the first time, it was not laughing. It was learning. The station did not return to normal after the simulation, even though the alarms were declared false and the damage was virtual. Something real had changed. Evan Cole felt it in the way people looked at him. Not with blame anymore, but with attention. Careful attention. He did not enjoy it. Evan preferred to stay invisible, to work behind the scenes where words mattered more than faces. But now, every corridor felt narrower. Every conversation paused when he entered. Humans whispered. "Da." Aliens observed. Commander Threxia Valcor did neither. She watched. From the command deck, she reviewed data from the simulation again and again. Reaction times, movement choices, decision order. Evan's actions stood out clearly, not because they were dramatic, but because they were fast. Too fast to be planned. Kylar analysts struggled to explain it. Their models relied on logic trees and probability calculations. Evan had followed none of them. He had simply moved. To Threxia, that was not chaos. It was a different kind of order. She ordered a second test. This time, Evan was not warned. He was in the cafeteria when the station lights flickered again. Trays rattled. Conversation stopped. A low vibration rolled through the floor. People froze. Evan's hand tightened around his cup. He did not wait for alarms. His eyes moved automatically, scanning exits, ceiling supports, body positions. He noticed a Kylar technician near a load-bearing column. Too close if the vibration increased. "Move!" Evan said sharply. The technician hesitated, then stepped back. A second later, a maintenance drone dropped from the ceiling exactly where the Kylar had been standing. Gasps filled the room. Only then did the alarm sound. This time, it was real. A small pirate vessel had slipped out of hyperspace too close to the station. It was damaged and leaking radiation, but its arrival had disrupted local systems. Not an attack, but a warning of how fragile safety truly was. Security teams rushed into action. Evan found himself being pulled into the command deck without explanation. Commander Threxia was already there, standing before a holographic display of the pirate ship. The vessel was ugly, asymmetrical, clearly built from stolen parts. Its life signs were weak.
"It is requesting asylum," a Kylar officer reported. Threxia did not respond immediately.
She looked at Evan instead. "What do you sense?" she asked. The room went quiet. Evan stiffened.
"Commander? I'm not a strategist."
"No," Threxia said. "You are an observer." Evan swallowed and looked at the display. It did not analyze schematics. He watched movement patterns, heat flickers, irregular power surges. "They're scared," he said slowly, "but not desperate enough. The ship is angled wrong. If they wanted help, they'd present their undamaged side."
"They're hiding something."
The Kylar officers exchanged looks. Sensors did not confirm this, but Threxia trusted what she had seen before.
"Maintain distance," she ordered. "Deploy drones only." Minutes later, hidden weapon ports on the pirate ship activated.
A trap that would have killed dozens if the station had moved closer. The pirates were disabled without loss of life. Silence followed, then quiet realization. Human instinct had prevented bloodshed. Afterward, Evan sat alone in a briefing room, hands shaking slightly. He had not realized how tense he was until it ended. Commander Threxia entered and dismissed the guards.
"You are correct again," she said. "I didn't mean to be," Evan replied.
"I just felt something was wrong. That feeling," Threxia said, "is what others lack." She paced slowly.
There is a reason I was chosen to evaluate your species. The Kylar face a growing threat.
An enemy that does not think like us.
Evan looked up. The hostile faction you mentioned.
"Yes," she said. "They are called the Virics. They value logic above all else. They remove emotion, instinct, hesitation."
They believe this makes them perfect. That sounds dangerous, Evan said.
"It is," Threxia replied. "They cannot predict what they cannot model." She stopped in front of him. "They cannot predict humans." The words settled heavily between them. "You want who use us," Evan said quietly.
"I want to understand you,"
Threxia corrected.
"If that leads to cooperation, then yes."
"You may be used, so may we all."
Evan leaned back, conflicted. Humans aren't weapons.
No, Threxia agreed.
"You are variables." That night, Evan could not sleep. His quarters felt smaller than ever. His thoughts raced, not about embarrassment anymore, but about responsibility. He thought of Earth, of people who had no idea their instincts were being studied like rare phenomena. He wondered if humanity was ready. Over the next cycles, joint exercises increased. Humans were placed in mixed teams with Kylar units, not as leaders, not as soldiers, as observers. And again, humans noticed things first. A slight delay in enemy response, an unnatural stillness, a pattern that did not feel alive. Evan watched his fellow humans struggle to explain themselves.
"I don't know why," one engineer said during a debrief. "It just felt wrong. The Kylar recorded everything."
Not all species approved. Delegates from the Virics arrived soon after. They were tall, thin, and eerily still. Their movements were smooth but lifeless, like machines wearing flesh. Their eyes glowed faintly with internal implants. Their leader addressed the council.
"Emotion-based species introduce inefficiency," the Virics said. "Humanity is unstable."
"Their instincts are unreliable." Evan stood at the back of the chamber listening.
Commander Threxia responded calmly. "Unreliable does not mean ineffective." The Virics turned their gaze toward Evan. "This one spoke inappropriate thoughts during first contact," the Virics leader said. Such lack of control is proof of inferiority. Evan felt anger rise, but also fear. Threxia did not react. That lack of control revealed honesty, she said. Honesty reveals truth faster than calculation. The Virex paused. That pause alone was telling.
After the session, Threxia met Evan privately. They are watching you, she said.
They see you as a flaw. Evan laughed softly. They're not wrong. They are wrong, Threxia said firmly. A flaw can break a perfect system. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. When war comes, they will rely on prediction. On certainty? And humans? Evan asked. We rely on feeling, Threxia said. And now, so will we. The realization hit Evan slowly. That embarrassing moment, the thought he never meant to share, had exposed something no species had noticed before. Humans were not dangerous because of strength or weapons. They were dangerous because they were unpredictable, intuitive, and honest, even when it hurt. As Evan looked out at the stars that night, he understood something new. Humanity was no longer being judged. It was being recruited. And the galaxy would never see them the same way again. The first real attack did not begin with explosions. It began with silence. Deep in neutral space, a relay station went dark. No distress signal, no debris field, just absence. At first, the Council assumed a system failure. Then a second station vanished. Then a third. Patterns began to form. Commander Threxia Val Kor stood before the council chamber, her posture rigid. Across from her, the representatives of many species argued in controlled voices. Logic models were displayed in floating light, predicting probabilities and responses. The Virex delegates were calm. This is expected variance, their leader said. Random loss within acceptable margins. Evan Cole stood behind the human delegation, watching the projections. Something about them made his skin prickle. They were too clean, too perfect. He leaned toward the human ambassador and spoke quietly. Those stations weren't random. The ambassador frowned. The data is lying, Evan said.
Or incomplete. Threxia turned her head slightly. She had heard him.
Explain, she said. Evan stepped forward, heart pounding. All 3 stations had mixed crews, multiple species, no single strategic value. But they shared one thing. What? A council member asked. They were emotionally noisy, Evan said. Lots of small conflicts, cultural friction, unpredictable behavior. The room went still. The Virex leader's eyes narrowed. That is irrelevant. No, Evan said, surprising himself with his firmness. It's the point. You don't destroy what's dangerous. You destroy what you can't predict. Threxia's gaze sharpened. Call back all mixed crews immediately, she ordered. Now. Some protested, others hesitated. It was too late for one. The 4th station vanished before evacuation could complete. This time, there were survivors. A damaged transport limped into Kylar-controlled space, hulls scorched, systems failing. Inside were terrified beings from 5 different species. Evan was among the first to meet them. He listened as they spoke in fragments, fear, confusion, sudden silence. Enemies that moved with perfect timing, attacks that anticipated every defensive action. They knew where we would be, a survivor said. Every time. Evan felt sick. The Virex were not just attacking. They were solving. Emergency war councils formed. Fleets mobilized. Defensive lines were drawn based on predictive algorithms. The Virex approved these plans. They always did. Evan watched simulations run. Everyone ended the same way. Loss. Heavy loss. Commander Threxia dismissed the room after one such briefing. Later, she met Evan, alone, in a quiet observation chamber. "Our models fail," she said simply.
They always will, Evan replied. The Virics think the future is a math problem. And you? She asked.
"I think it's a feeling," Evan said. "A messy one." She studied him for a long moment. "Then help us feel," she said. What followed was chaos, by design. Evan proposed something no other species would have dared. Remove predictability. Mixed fleets with no standard formations, commanders allowed to act independently. Humans placed not as leaders, but as disruptors, free to speak, interrupt, and change plans mid-action. The Council resisted. The Virics objected strongly.
This introduces inefficiency, they said.
"Yes, Evan," replied. "That's the point. The first engagement under the new doctrine was small. A Virex scouting force moved toward a Kylar supply line. According to all models, interception would fail. The humans did not follow the model. Evan stood on the command deck of a Kylar cruiser, surrounded by officers who did not fully trust him. His role was unofficial, no rank. No authority. Just a voice.
Turn left, he said suddenly. That makes no sense, an officer replied. The enemy is to the right. Trust me, Evan said. They expect us to go right. Threxia stood nearby, silent.
The cruiser turned left. Moments later, Varric's weapons fire cut through empty space where the cruiser would have been. The human maneuver placed them behind the enemy's formation, something no algorithm predicted. The battle ended quickly. Word spread. In the next engagement, humans suggested feints that looked like mistakes, retreats that became ambushes, pauses that confused enemy targeting systems. The Virics began to hesitate. Hesitation was new to them. But war has a cost. During a major confrontation near a star cluster, a Kylar destroyer was hit. Its shields collapsed. Evacuation failed. Hundreds were lost. Evan watched the casualty list appear on the screen. He felt it like a physical blow. "This is my fault," he said quietly. Threxia shook her head.
No! War reveals cost.
It does not assign blame, but Evan could not let it go. That night, he sat alone in the station's dim recreation area, staring at nothing. Humans were not meant to carry this much weight, he thought. They felt too much. Footsteps approached.
Threxia sat across from him. You grieve, she said.
"Yes," Evan replied. "I can't turn it off." "Do not," she said. "That pain is why you fight differently." He looked up at her. "My people think emotion is weakness," he said.
My people thought so too,
Threxia said, until now. The next Virics move was bold.
They targeted Earth, not directly.
That would provoke total war. Instead, they sent envoys, offering protection, predictable peace, a place in their perfect system. Many human leaders were tempted. Evan was not.
They don't want us as allies, he warned the council. They want us controlled. How can you be sure? A diplomat asked. Evan closed his eyes. Because when they look at us, he said, they don't see people.
Threxia supported him. "The Virics do not tolerate variables," she said.
Humans are the largest variable we have ever encountered.
Negotiations collapsed. The Virics responded with force. A massive fleet emerged near a populated trade route. Panic spread. Evacuation began. This time, Evan was afraid. truly afraid. He stood beside Threxia on the bridge of her flagship as the enemy fleet came into view. Cold, precise, overwhelming.
We cannot win by matching them, he said.
No, Threxia agreed. So how do we win? Evan took a deep breath.
We don't try to win, he said. We try to confuse. The plan was simple and insane. Human ships would broadcast contradictory signals. Fake retreats, emotional noise, false fear, false confidence. Everything the Virex systems filtered out as useless. Except it wasn't useless. It was overwhelming. As the battle began, Virex targeting systems struggled. Predictions conflicted. Units hesitated, waiting for certainty that never came. Human pilots laughed, shouted, improvised. Kyler commanders followed instinct instead of orders. The battlefield turned chaotic, beautifully chaotic. For the first time, the Virex were not ahead. They were behind. As explosions lit the void, Evan felt something strange. Hope. He did not know how the war would end. He only knew this. The galaxy had tried perfection. Now it was learning to survive imperfection. And humans were at the center of it, exactly where they had always belonged. The battle raged for cycles. Stars blazed with fire as fleets collided. Metal twisted and energy fields crackled across the void. Every sensor beeped. Every officer shouted. Every human moved as instinct guided them, not protocol. Evan Cole stood on the bridge of the Kylar flagship, heart hammering. He was exhausted, but exhaustion did not matter. The Virex fleet was enormous, more precise than anything he had ever seen, yet for the first time, humans were not afraid. They acted freely, unpredictably, in ways no algorithm could calculate. Commander Threxia Valcor stood beside him, her tall frame radiating calm amidst chaos. Her eyes scanned the displays, but they were different now. She did not rely on perfect predictions. She relied on Evan, on human instinct. They will expect a direct attack, Evan said, pointing to a cluster of Virex ships moving in formation. But that's what we will do.
Split the fleet.
Feints on all sides. Humans lead the unexpected.
Threxia nodded. You are ready?
Evan swallowed. As ready as I'll ever be. The operation began. Human crews darted through the battlefield, moving erratically, communicating with signals only they understood. The Kylar followed, mimicking the unpredictability. The Virex weapons tried to lock targets, but the unpredictability overwhelmed their systems. Lasers fired into empty space. Missiles self-destructed. Enemy ships collided in confusion. Evan's pulse raced. Every instinct screamed danger, yet every instinct was accurate. He directed human pilots to cover damaged ships, to intercept sudden attacks, to take advantage of every hesitation. The battlefield was chaotic, but chaos was their ally. At one point, a Virex dreadnought broke formation and aimed directly for the station's command hub. Human pilots reacted instantly. Evan shouted instructions, his voice calm and precise despite the pounding adrenaline. Ships intercepted the dreadnought, ramming it off course. Explosions illuminated the void, but no station was lost. Drexia's voice came through the comms. You are extraordinary. Evan shook his head. We are extraordinary, all of us. For hours, the battle continued. Virex after Virex fell into traps set by human intuition. No strategy could predict the human mind when it was free to act. Fleets of humans and Kylar pushed the invaders back, inch by inch, movement by movement, instinct by instinct. When the fighting finally ceased, silence fell over the station. Smoke and fire from destroyed ships lingered in the void, glittering like distant stars. Evan sat back in his chair, trembling. He could hardly believe what they had just survived. Threxia entered the bridge, her usual composed demeanor replaced with something softer. She stopped in front of him, studying him carefully.
Human Evan Cole, you have done what no Kylar fleet has ever done. You have made the Virex hesitate, and hesitation has saved thousands of lives.
Evan shook his head. I didn't do it alone. Everyone acted together. Humans, Kylar, we all listened to each other, trusted each other. Phyrexia's eyes softened as she looked at him. Perhaps, she said, but your thought, the one you believed was a mistake, led us here. Your instinct revealed what no algorithm could calculate. You did not hide. You did not lie. That honesty, that unfiltered response, changed the outcome. Evan blinked. He remembered the first embarrassing moment, the accidental comment, the freezing silence, the fear of punishment, and now it seemed that single moment had begun a chain of events that saved entire fleets. I still can't believe it, he said quietly.
It was just a thought, Phyrexia smiled faintly. That thought revealed humanity's greatest strength.
Your species' unpredictability, your honesty, your ability to see what others cannot. These are gifts, and the galaxy has now witnessed them. Over the following cycles, celebrations were muted but sincere. Survivors were debriefed, alliances strengthened, and the Virex retreated to their controlled territories, shaken by a force they could not comprehend. Humans were no longer merely participants. They were essential. They were variables that could not be ignored. Evan walked the station corridors, still feeling the weight of recent events. Officers, engineers, and pilots passed him, giving nods of respect. Some smiled quietly. Others whispered words of gratitude. It was strange, and yet strangely comforting. He had not sought glory. He had only acted, and yet he realized that sometimes action, honesty, and instinct mattered more than skill or rank. Phyrexia joined him on the observation deck, where the stars stretched endlessly. Do you understand now, she asked, why your kind is vital? Evan gazed at the stars. He remembered his first thoughts about her. The instinctive, unfiltered observation that had terrified him when spoken aloud. And now it had begun a transformation. Yes, he said finally. I understand. Phyrexia nodded. Then humanity has a place among the stars, not because it is perfect, but because it cannot be predicted. And unpredictability can defeat certainty. Evan smiled faintly. I guess that means even mistakes can be important.
Not mistakes, Phyrexia corrected. Truth.
Instinct, courage. Those are the traits that cannot be calculated and therefore cannot be defeated. The human felt a strange calm wash over him. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable, but humans had something no one else did. They felt, they noticed, they acted, and above all, they were honest, even when honesty came at a cost. As the stars drifted silently beyond the observation window, Evan understood the final truth. Humanity's greatest strength was not technology, not numbers, not power. It was the human heart, the human mind, and the human instinct that would always find a way when the galaxy demanded it. And in that understanding, he found hope, not just for himself, but for every human who would follow him among the stars. The galaxy had tested humanity and found them worthy, not because of perfection, but because of their courage to think, to act, and to be human. Evan knew, with a quiet certainty, that this was only the beginning. The Virex might return. Other threats would come. But for now, humans had proved what mattered most, that unpredictability, honesty, and instinct were forces the galaxy could not ignore. Commander Phyrexia placed a hand on his shoulder. Human Evan Cole, she said, voice calm and steady. You have reminded us all that the galaxy belongs not only to the strongest, but to the ones who dare to be themselves.
Evan nodded.
He had started this journey terrified of a single thought. Now, That thought had helped save thousands, perhaps millions. He looked out at the stars, the endless darkness that stretched beyond comprehension, and felt a new purpose. The galaxy had witnessed humanity, and it had been impressed. And Evan Cole, a human who had once feared his own honesty, finally understood that his instincts, thoughts, and courage were not flaws to hide. They were humanity's greatest weapon. The stars shimmered in silence, a reminder that the universe was vast, but humans were ready, unpredictable, courageous, alive, and nothing could take that away.